I decided to watch all the Paranormal Activity films, and here are my quick thoughts. Paranormal Activity 1, in my opinion, is still really effective. The movie is about a couple named Katie and Micah. They feel like some weird things are going around their house, so Micah decides to get a camera to record it all. He places the camera in the bedroom, so each night we see things happening. Every night, things progressively gets worse. This demon is just tormenting these two. For the most part, I enjoyed this movie. I think the demon was a little bit goofy in the beginning. This movie does have some really effective scares. I think the fact that most of this movie takes place in one house, and especially in this one bedroom, makes it a little bit more personal. And the ending to this movie, I think, is one of the most creepy endings to a horror movie ever. You would think they'll be able to follow up this movie with a solid sequel, but unfortunately, Paranormal Activity is horrible. This movie's about Katie's sister, Christy. We meet her family and her newborn baby, Hunter. And just like with Paranormal Activity 1, this family also feels like there's something supernatural going on. One day, their house gets broken into and trashed, completely trashed. So they decide to get cameras in every single room in the house, even the outside pool. I couldn't stand how this ghost was just goofing around for more than half of this movie. He's too busy dropping car keys and messing with swimming pool equipment, bro. Swimming pool equipment. Occasionally throughout the movie, he'll slam a door or drag somebody. But most of this time, he's trying to be a YouTube prankster or get some clips for his TikTok. But because they had no idea what to do with this ghost, they try to add a little bit more story to this movie, which is kind of interesting, but they don't really follow up any of this very well. But it's like, yo, the demon can do whatever it wants, but instead it's just goofing around. Because the pace is so bad, this movie for the most part was just really boring. The quote-unquote scares here are not effective. If you are tired and can't fall asleep and need to go to sleep, put on Paranormal Activity 2. It'll do just the job. This movie also leaves you on a cliffhanger that doesn't get answered in Paranormal Activity 3. Instead, we get a prequel to when Katie and Christy were kids. We meet Katie and Christy's mother, who doesn't really care what's going on with these kids, and her boyfriend, Dennis. Dennis also loves cameras, but he thinks something weird is going on with these girls. He decides to put a camera in the girls' room to capture what's really going on in their room at nighttime. I thought the ghost was even lamer in this movie than he was in Paranormal Activity 2. For the most part, he doesn't do anything in this movie but mess with these two little girls. As a matter of fact, I don't think he does really much of anything in this movie. I think most of the creepiness comes from these two little girls and this setting that they're in. But as the movie was progressing, I started to notice that the demon actually had a plan this entire time, and that it involved the girls and also a lot of patience. And because he has to be patient, so do we. So for most of this movie, nothing's really happening. I will say something weird is going on for most of these nights. But at this point, I was starting to get the Paranormal Activity fatigue, and I was just getting tired of this formula. Characters were okay. The mother was hilarious. She wasn't taking any of this serious until she had to. Like, Christy is talking to this mysterious ghost off camera, and Dennis shows the mother, and the mother's like, oh, it's just an imaginary friend. Like, what? These movies always have to have that one character that doesn't take any of this serious. I also didn't really care much for the ending. I didn't too much care for Paranormal Activity 3, but it was a lot better than the second one. They honestly should have ended with this movie, but you know, money. So of course there's a fourth one. The fourth one is a sequel to the already disappointing second Paranormal Activity. Follow a teenage girl named Alex, her family, and their adopted son, Wyatt. Notice this really strange kid named Robbie who is just following them around and staring at them. Something insane happens to Robbie's mother, and so Alex's family decides to take him in for some reason. And of course, Robbie is just being really creepy. Turns out there's more to the story with Riot and Robbie, and they actually might be connected in some way. But who cares, because this movie is really lame. Things happily pick up with Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, which in the beginning you forget that this is a horror movie. Our main character, Jesse, just graduated high school. So him and his best friend Hector are planning on having a crazy summer, but something insane happens to their downstairs neighbor one night. So of course Jesse and Hector gotta go investigate. While they're down there investigating, they end up finding a picture of Jesse, his mother, and a strange mark that ends up on Jesse's arm that next day. And at first they think this mark is giving Jesse superpowers or something. That is not the reason he has a mark on him, and things get really crazy. I'm not gonna lie, this might be my favorite one out of all of these movies. This movie is such a breath of fresh air. There's no ghost just dropping keys on the floor or dragging people across the room or slamming doors. This movie is more of a possession movie. And when things are starting to get really serious, this movie is actually pretty effective. Because you were so engaged with them in the beginning of the movie, it gets really sad when things start getting really bad for these three. Marisol and Hector are trying their hardest to get their friend Jesse back, knowing they really can't do anything about it. Watch this movie for the ending. Go back and watch PA1 and watch the ending of this movie. It is a masterpiece. It honestly should have ended with Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. But these movies make too much money, so they decided to push out another one for some reason. The Ghost Dimension is easily the worst one out of all of these movies. Not only is it the worst one, it's the most pointless one. In this movie, a married couple and their daughter decide to move into this new home. And of course, this family feels like there's something supernatural going on around their house. And turns out it is some type of ghost that attaches itself to the daughter of the family. But instead, in this movie, we can see the ghost do nothing. The effects in this movie are horrible. It's so laughable. It just looks like a bunch of particles just flying around the screen. I feel bad for anybody that saw this movie in the theater. After watching this, I would be so mad walking out the theater. This movie adds nothing to the overall story. There's zero, and I mean zero, scary scenes in this movie. Yeah, the Ghost Dimension is horrible. I recommend nobody watch this movie. In the comments, let me know what Paranormal Activity movie you enjoy the most. I think my overall favorite is the marked ones, but PA1 is not too far off. Follow for more content if you really enjoyed this video.